Hola, hola guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about some recent reads of mine. I actually have more than 5 here, so let's see if I can do this quickly and not spend too much time. So the first that I want to talk about is the most sold book of the year, and that is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. And this is a historical fiction book set in 2 separate timelines about a young girl who lives in the marshes of North Carolina, and we're finding out about her and her upbringing, and simultaneously we're also finding out about this mystery. This man is found dead, and we're trying to see how that everything ties together and what she may or may not have to do with it. And it's a quiet, character-centered story that was so amazing to read. The nature writing in this is pretty much what everyone has been talking about, because it really is such a standout of this novel. It's absolutely exquisite. The writing is magnificent. The marsh feels like a character of its own, which you really I think is indicative of the type of writing that we have, when it's more about just the human characters. It's about the environment itself and where these characters live and where they reside, that really adds so much to the story. So because she was abandoned by her family at such a young age, we see her grow alone and have to figure out a way to survive and to live in a place that really looks down upon her, because she's so poor and because she's from the marshes. She doesn't have any education, and sort of we see the discrimination that's present there, and we see her grow and persevere through that. And at the same time, there's this mystery about this man that has passed away, and we don't know if she has anything to do with it. But the way that everything is written and the way the 2 stories, they kind of, every chapter they come together. So we're at the beginning of her childhood, and then sort of at the end of our story where the man is found dead. And so each succeeding chapter, these 2 storylines get closer together, and I think that was done brilliantly. I kind of thought I knew where it was going. It caught me a little bit off guard, but really I fell in love with these characters, and I fell in love with the story and the quietness of it, and I understand why it is selling as well as it's selling, really. And I started to read the books on my Try a Chapter Latinx edition tag, and I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. She is the author of Poet X, and this is a YA contemporary novel about our main character, Imani, who is a teenage mom and trying to balance being a mom, going to school, and having to go to work. And she has this love, as you can see by the cover, of food and of cooking, and it's really just a nice story about family expectations, about trying to find that balance, about trying to overcome past family traumas and be better than what you had, and provide for others in ways that maybe you felt you never got. And the audiobook for this was amazing, just like Poet X was. If you like contemporary YA, I would really recommend it. It is great, and it's awesome to see, diverse YA. Speaking of, we have Nocturna by Maya Montaigne. This is a Latinx YA fantasy, and it is about our two main characters, Finn and Alfie, who is the prince of the Castellan kingdom. He is obsessed with trying to find out what happened to his brother, and at the same time sort of trying to hide from his responsibilities as an upcoming prince who is to take the throne. And within all of that, his life is entangled with this thief who is just trying to survive in the streets, trying to survive traumas in her past. And it's really fun and fast-paced. There's a lot of action in it. It was great to see an all Latinx cast and see things like, merengue and whatnot referenced in a fantasy novel, because you're so used to them being very like Eurocentric and very you know, medieval. A lot of the very famous fantasies are, and so it was really great to see a different side of that come to life. I won't say that this is like a new favorite. It was very fun and fast paced, and I liked the characters, but I guess I'm just used to the type of fantasy now that's much more grander in scope, that the world is detailed out for what?
Did you say much more grander?
Grand, yeah, it is more grand in scope.
It's much more grand.
Okay, and I would have loved so much more detail about the world. I would have loved more detail about, there is some good amount of detail about how their magic works. So everybody has like these certain abilities, so people can like deal with water, others with fire, with stone. People can make others do whatever they want. So there's all these kind of they call it the propio, which is like your own self and your own power. And our main character Alfie can sort of see the shades of color of other people's magic and maybe imitate it. It's really interesting, and you do get a lot of detail about that. But I would have just liked to slow it down a bit and get much more detail about the world and how we got here and more history, and it was just kind of too fast-paced for me. There are, I guess, a heads up, I was reading some of the negative comments about it, and there is a lot of people saying that it is too similar to the V.E. Schwab's Shades of Magic series. I have not read that, so I can't really speak to that, but if that's the case, then that's unfortunate, because it's going to that's what's going to be in a lot of people's mind when they're reading it. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with it. I like that it's a diverse YA fantasy. I think we need a lot more of that, especially Latinx one that I haven't read many of. So yeah, I mean, if you like YA, if you like fantasy, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think I just wanted like more from it. Then I read like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquirel. This is a Latinx sort of classic, especially with regards to magical realism. This is it is the story of our main character, Tita, told through different recipes. She is the youngest daughter of an all-female family, and so it falls upon her to take care of her mom until her mom dies, which means that she can't get married. So her mom denies the man who comes to the home to ask for Tita's hand, and our story takes off from there. He devises a plan to somehow stay close to Tita, but it doesn't really work out like either of them want. Tita's mom is horrid. And yeah, it's a very interesting concept. This is one where I love the story. Like, I loved getting to know what happened, and the overall, when I step back and just think about the story, I loved it. But I wasn't a huge fan of the writing. I didn't find it to be evocative. I didn't feel so compelled to read it, and I didn't feel like I was feeling the same things that the characters were feeling. And so that was a little bit disappointing. It felt very simplistic and stripped back, where I feel like this story could have really gone so much harder, like with just some truly evocative writing. And I don't know if that's a translation issue. This was originally written in Spanish, and this edition that I read is in English, so I will have to read it in Spanish, and I would like to at some point and see if maybe that's the case, like that's the issue. But yeah, and then also it was distracting because so at the beginning of each chapter we get a month, and so it just goes through the year, but the months don't correlate to the type of recipe. And so like if it's telling the story of her life through different recipes that have impacts on her life, and but it'll be like talking about something that she'll make for Three Kings Day, which is in January, but the month that like titles the chapter is like October or something like that. So that didn't make any sense. I was a little confused by that. So yeah, this is like I said, I love the story, but the writing just didn't grip me like I really wish that it would have. Then something very quick that I read was volume 1 of Attack on Titan. Lewis and I watched the anime and really enjoy it. I've had the manga for a really long time because I wanted to see if I like manga, sort of get into it, and this was really fun. This is really great. I already love the story itself, so I think that helped me get into it. And yeah, I want to keep going with it. It was really fun, really fast, really great. And then one of my favorites of the year so far, I think, is Signal to Noise by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is a sort of fantasy-ish novel. It's again takes place in 2 different times, in the 80s in Mexico City and in 2009 in Mexico City, and it is about our main character Meche, who is a 15-year-old girl who discovers that through music she can perform magic, and it's about the shenanigans that she and her 2 best friends get into. But it feels that feels very surface level, but it's so deep. It goes into friendship and what that means, how different personalities can get along or not, and how the desire to fit in and to have friends and to make friends maybe makes us let go of things that maybe we shouldn't let go of, that maybe we should stand up for ourselves more and sort of be like, you know, that's kind of a shitty thing that you did. And it's about like all of the dumb things that we do when we're 15 and how we can let our emotions get the best of us without really thinking. It's a story about friendship and family and magic, and the magic that's found in music. It's really and like a love song to music as well. And then it's about redemption and how you make up for the mistakes that you make, how you grow, how you realize how much you hurt other people, and how that the effect that can have on you, and how you can step back and realize everything that you've done and apologize for that, and remake friends. We have a main character, Daniela, or one of our side characters, Daniela, who is a chubby girl, which is always good to see in stories, and she is like the softest hearted character. I really grew to love her so much, because I saw myself in her in both the body type but also the personality, in that because you love your friends so much and because you want to have friends and continue to be friends with these people that you've sort of chosen, you might maybe become a little bit of a pushover, and it might be a little bit difficult for you to stand up for yourself, and those were all things that she had to deal with because Meche, our main character, has a very strong personality, and she is a little bit of a pushover, but she does step up at some point, and she finds her voice and she finds her agency, and Meche has to come to terms with everything that she's put Daniela through and apologize for that, and I couldn't put it down. I loved every second of it. I loved all the characters, even the ones that are really shitty people. I loved reading about them and finding out what happened and how they play a role in each other's lives, and I really wanted to read this before her next novel came out, which it just did this, The Gods of Jade and Shadow, which is a fantasy, Mayan inspired fantasy set in the Jazz Age. I wanted to see how I would like her writing and how I would like her characters, and if it's anything like this, I know that I'm gonna fall in love with it. I haven't stopped thinking about it. I've been talking to everybody about it. I think it's gonna be one of my favorites of the year. Then last is Cinder by Marissa Mayer. Most of you guys probably have heard of this or seen it around. It's the first in the Lunar Chronicles. It's a retelling of Cinderella where she's like a cyborg. I was not really invested in this at all. I didn't really care about what was going on. It was fun and it was fast-paced. that's it. I just thought it was okay. It was not. I just don't think it's my thing anymore. Yeah, just the types of fantasies that I like now are not that. So yeah, those are the things that I have read recently. Let me know if you have read any of them, what you thought. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys.